Hey folks, Duck D in a dungeon, and it's Sunday afternoon. I just rolled 4 o'clock and just finished up a 3-day scraping class with Keith Rucker, and I wanted to record some thoughts while they're still fresh in my head, some things that I wish I'd have done a little better, and things that, you know, if you're going to take a class, things that you might want to think about. So to start off with, the class includes an 18-inch straight edge, right? And you're going to scrape in both the bottom side and the bevel. So Keith sends an abundance of information out front of the class, and you know, a cheap guy's a cheap guy's a cheap guy. I'm a cheap guy. I had a scraper, and you know, I had some other cutters for it, but I don't know where in the world they're at. I couldn't find them before the class, and even if I had, I think I'd have still been a little lacking. And so, you know, I've got this Sandvik cutter, or scraper, excuse me, and it uses this great big, and it's actually a square, and you know, I rounded it off, and it's got like a 6-degree taper on each side. And it worked, kinda. If I had more skill, this probably would have been fine. But I didn't have enough skill to make it work well. And so, you know, I did some initial scraping with this. It didn't work. Like I said, you know, it took me a while to kind of figure out where the sweet spot was on that particular scraper, right? So yeah, I used it actually to scrape in the better part of the back side, the big flat, and you know, I had some issues, so when I got down, well, I had a lot of issues, but we'll talk about some of those. When I started actually getting some points spread across this, I didn't have that sweet spot, wasn't good enough for me to get to those points, right? And so I was scraping around the point, over the point, beside the point, and so, you know, Keith handed me a small point scraper, which was made out of a file, and I don't think I have any. I might have some video of it, and it worked really good for hitting those little spots, but it just, you know, it was you know, this long, and you're just not putting enough power in it to really move much metal. And so, you know, I dinked around for 2 days trying to get the back of this done, and you know, I had some issues where, and you know, this is apparently a very common thing, is that I had a hard edge, I had a hard spot all the way around this, and all 4 corners were extremely hard. And so what that means is that, you know, when you scrape that, you're not removing nearly as much metal. You know, like I said, I did, I don't know, quite a few passes with that, and then, you know, I thought I was to the point where, you know, I could start hitting spots, and you know, and Keith's instructional style is to let you make mistakes, to make, you know, some pointed suggestions, and then, you know, step back and watch. And you know, so day one, there were actually a couple people who had pretty much scraped in the big flat. I was not one of those. And then, you know, day 2, you know, I finally went to Keith and said, okay, you know, help me out here. I just, you know, and you know, his sage advice was, look, you know, your edges are harder, and you know, you've got a lot of gap in your center, and so he says, you know, knock those edges down hard, you know, really spend some effort on those edges. In fact, just don't even worry about the middle right now, just knock the edges down. And I did that and started to see some results, and then I went back to that small scraper again, and you know, I just wasn't moving enough metal. Now I do have some video this morning on day 3. Keith took pity on me, and he got the Bi-X power scraper out, and he hit, how many did he do? 2 passes, 3 passes?
2 or 3.
2 or 3 passes. I don't remember. It's on video, I think. I think it's all on video.
Yeah.
And yeah, that did it, you know, because that thing moves a lot more metal. And Keith is like a surgeon with that thing. So I'm very much looking forward to taking the advanced metal scraping class, which uses the power scraper. So anyhow, we got the bottom. It's not to the gold standard yet of 40 points per inch, but it's pretty close. And you know, Keith wanted me to go ahead and move on and do the bevel today, and that's what I spent the day doing, is doing the bevel. And so I did smarten up, and I borrowed one of Keith's scrapers, and man, what a night and day difference, you know, a real scraper. And yeah, it went really quick. You know, I spent, I don't know, 3 hours scraping this in, and you know, we were doing the swap and sell stuff too, and so, you know, it was a very pleasant day, and you know, it was a pleasant that I was able to finish the bevel and be happy with it. All right, so points that I want to make for you if you take the class. All right, you know, Keith recommends that you bring Windex, you know, a roll of paper towels. He recommended the blue paper towels. I brought what I had, which is regular paper towels. The regular paper towels, man, they just don't last. So go ahead and buy the blue. You'll be happy that you did. Wear an apron. Can you focus in on me here? So, you know, after the first part of the day, you know, I've had this great big red stain. The stain that we're using is iron oxide, is one of them, and then the other is carbon. There's a carbon base. And it goes everywhere. You know, some guys had it all over their face and noses and stuff. You know, I did okay. I got, you know, my hands are covered, and I got this big spot here. So wear an apron. You'll be happy that you did. Buy the scraper that Keith recommends, and as soon as I'm done here tonight, I'm going to order that scraper. He also recommended the precision flat ground stones. I didn't have a pair of those. I borrowed Keith's, and man, they are nice. I'm going to order a set of those as well. I really should have a pair, but I don't. What else? Eyeglasses, light. One of the things that I struggle with, you know, I wear glasses for close work, and I didn't think I would wear my glasses. I spent pretty much all 3 days wearing my glasses so that I could see. I struggled with lighting. A lot of the guys brought, and Keith recommends that you do, they brought little flexible arm desk lamps, you know, that clamp onto something. And those guys were real happy that they brought that. I wish that I had. It would have made life a little, it wasn't terrible, but it would have made life a little easier for me. Yeah, so buy the scrapers that he recommends, you know, and like I said, you know, I had this one, and if it would work, I wanted to make it work. You know, I hate spending money on something that I don't need. Turns out, yeah, I needed them. You'll need them. What else? Just patience. Oh, yeah. So about midway through yesterday is when I really realized that, you know, I just wasn't moving enough metal. I was being timid, if you will, on the metal removal. And you know, it really sank home for me this morning, you know, because when I first came in, Keith's like, hey, let's get you caught up. And he got the biax out, and I mean, he's just motoring through it. And I'm like, okay, I was being too timid. So yeah, those are the key points that I wanted to make. I'll make another video, because I bought this before the class, and I was hoping that I would be able to scrape this in. You know, this is a 9-inch. I was hoping I'd be able to scrape it in during the class, and some guys actually were able to do that, and some guys had some other projects. I just wasn't. You know, I got this done, and you know, I'm happy with that. It was a very informative 3 days of class. Keith talked a lot about you know, squareness and level, and a lot of different tools to assess, you know, not only the plate that you're using as your master, but how to measure straightness and flatness and squareness and parallelism of your lathe bed ways, and you know, just super class. I didn't record a whole lot of that stuff. I didn't want to step on Keith's toes, and you know, stuff that he's going to use for content. And so, you know, I didn't record all that, and I kind of wish I had, just for my own sake, but you know, it is what it is. So I'm going to shoot another video. I'm going to scrape this in here at the house, and I think it'll go much faster than this. I think, you know, probably a good solid day and I'll have this scraped in. So when you go, get you a set of nice vices. You know, I showed up and he asked that you bring a vise, or not vise. You do want to bring a vise. I brought a nice Kurt, and I'm glad that I brought the bigger one. There were some guys that brought the smaller ones. I'm glad I brought the bigger one. Bring us some C-clamps, because you're clamping it to the table. And yeah, so the swap and sell is always, you know, one of the more fun things to do. And so what did I come away with? Well, can you come up here and see this, babe? So we got a Brown & Sharp 6-foot straight edge, camelback straight edge. Russ Sprague came down from Cleveland area, and he brought a lot of goodies. This is one of them, and I just had to have it. I don't know if I'll ever actually use it, but you know, if I do need it, it's here, and if nothing else, it's going to look really awesome as shot wall art. All right, some other things that I bought. You know, another trolley. In the ceiling of here, I've got 1, 2, 3 I-beams going this way, and I have 3 sections of I-beams. Actually, 1 I-beam, but it's sectioned off into 3 different. And I've got trolleys on most of those. Keith had a trolley there for 30 bucks, and it's like, yeah, okay, I'll buy that. Also got this off of Keith. It's a tapping head with all the different little collets, so you can get down some pretty small taps. So kind of cool to have that. Russ Sprague had all these, he's actually the guy I bought this off of, had all these cutters, and you know, I don't have a large variety of large cutters, and so I was glad to get these. When we get the Brown & Sharp number 2 going, you know, I'm going to do some videos on that. These will come in handy. He also had a really nice 18N Jacobs chuck, and then he also had a Jacobs chuck that's a keyless. You know, threading tool, I mean, you can't ever have too many of those. Another threading tool, and then some counter bores. So all in all, a really great weekend, and I would happily do it again. Can't recommend Keith enough. Thank you, Keith, and you know, the 10 guys who were there in the class, very enjoyable. A lot of great guys. So happy to meet you, and you know, hopefully we'll keep bumping into each other as we move forward. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Talk to you out, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you.
Don't kick the cat. Stand on
Sick. Oh.
lighting is key.
Yeah, lighting makes a big difference.
That has to be lights that are shut down here somewhere in a quick slide. Holding problem. If you continue to do this, what you would do differently if you were doing it, you know, with your own shop. How you can set it up.
How to tell you how not to do it, how not to not.
Oh, actually, I'm gonna get some context on that.
Boy, that corner is hard.
Yeah, and it's basically, it's like a vacuum. It's all where the mirror is difficult. Some people are even have to do the shit they're doing now. Well, I was just figuring off that.
Bother with this stuff at all, or is it just mainly focusing now on these? So you're actually picking up a little bit in here, but you can see the difference in the colors.
Yeah.
So I would probably right now just hit the real black stuff.
All right.
It'll probably that'll start coming in pretty quick.
Okay.
Should.
Good.
Yeah. But I'll probably just hit the real black stuff.
Great. But using your body helps me control the length of the stroke.
It does.
I'm doing that rocking. Yeah, it helps.
corners you want to be scraping off of. It's hard to scrape on the corners are often harder to hold anyway.
I'm assuming you want the coarser grit. Make sure it's good. we'll have anything better to do. And can you guarantee that it'll be as good as what I done?
Oh, and you need to calibrate it. Oh, have to. Sorry. Are you the emergency room doc?
No.
driving cars around. Yeah. He drove them across the country on numerous occasions, out and back, electronically. So we drive the cars ever since we got now. And the landscaping here is really pretty.
Ryan slept in.
It is a beautiful part of the country. And so,
No reason for that. Shouldn't be,
Yeah,
but,
basically.
but you know, Bridgeport does it. I mean, they come from the factory that way.
Yeah.
But that's just mostly aesthetic. I mean, well, I'm not gonna say it doesn't have any use, but ideally, it would be on the other side.
Thick enough.
But they do it because it looks pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say it doesn't have any use, but you also can pick up dirt and trash in those, and it can cause you problems.
Man.
So what I'm gonna suggest you do is just go ahead and start working on your dovetail. You can always work on this when you get home, and just go ahead and get kind of moving forward with it.
Alrighty.
And he was going outside, and it was cast iron, he was crazy. I mean, you know, he was just practicing, he was looking for stuff. I mean, I think he did advice. Oh, he actually, yeah, to do what we were doing here.
I've got a weird house where we got the roof and half the ground steep. Or some of the roofs are half the ground, some porches underneath, and over a shingle bridge, cedar, years ago. And we'll be moving out and we don't really have a lot of wood.
That's what I had a clamp.